I've stopped off at a place called Petite Ouvrage La Ferté. This is a small defensive fortification of the Maginot Line. I've stopped off at a place called Petite Ouvrage La Ferté. It's part of the Maginot Line fortification, and I've stopped here for one reason. Just a little rundown about Fort La Ferté. It's a small, strong point facing the border of Belgium. Now, if you have watched my other videos regarding the Maginot Line, Belgium was the weakest part of the fortification because they wanted the Germans to actually try to go round the back of this Maginot Line and attack France from Belgium. Unfortunately, they didn't expect the Germans to go through the Ardennes, which was densely populated with trees. But that's what they did. They went through the Ardennes, through Belgium. They annexed the French forces and also the British BAF on the beaches of Dunkirk, and they were rescued from there. Anyway, getting back to La Ferté. This was attacked on the 18th of May, heavily attacked by the Germans with howitzers, just blitzed the place. Fort La Ferté asked the local ouvrage called Chenois, I think it's, I'll put it at the bottom, I can't know how it says it, to do covering fire, so they do fire on this position, which they duly did. Now, as I may have said before, each one of these fortifications could fire on each other, and the idea was to defend each other. So if the Germans were attacking one position, they could, the parts of the Maginot Line, or each ouvrage, either side of the one that's been attacked, could ask the other one to attack it. And it sounds strange, but that's the way it is. The reason they did that is because it was strong enough to resist their own attacks, but to try and repel any German advances, and that's the reason why they did it. There would be no harm to the soldiers inside, because they'd be well and truly dug in. Anyway, so they did do, and they did covering fire to try and repel the Germans. I don't think it actually worked, but at least they give it a go. The Germans carried on trying to attack this position, and on the 18th of May, sorry, they cut all communication anyway. I know it was we can hear me. It was re-established, but on the 19th of May, they'd lost all communication with this place. The Germans moved in to have a look at what was going on, and they found all of the occupants, I think it was 97 men and 3 officers, dead. They all were in the gas mask, but gas hadn't killed them, neither had shell fire. What killed them was carbon monoxide. They've suffocated to death, really, to be honest with you. Now, gas masks are designed to repel mustard gas and probably other gases wherever they were developing, but it wasn't designed to repel or to stop CO2. Anyway, this fort is set up in memory of those soldiers that died. So I'm going to lay a cross in memory of the soldiers who fought and died for their country in 1940 in the Maginot Line. And while we're here, I'm going to have a walk round and have a look at this area, this Petite Ouvrage. Now what you see in front of me here is the old railway lines. Now, they were put around a lot of these forts, the front line defence against Germany, as anti-tank obstacles. This is another defensive obstacle obstacle, which is obviously like cross members with spikes on the top of them. And the idea is, if the Germans tried to push it over, it's just going to carry on rolling. It's full of barbed wire as well. Another defensive line at the front of these fortifications is piggy tails, or pigtails, mixed with barbed wire. Now, these were widely used in the First World War. Now, these are quite thick, to be honest with you, but the ones in the First World War were much thinner, so they could carry them across no man's land, and they would carry them across in the dead of night and screw them in the floor, because, like a piggy tail, as you can imagine, that was the part that was drilled into the floor. So, in this case, obviously, this is Second World War stuff, but they've obviously learned the lessons maybe from the First World War. They would be screwed in the floor, and then barbed wire hooked on them, and then, this is the First World War, they would crawl back into the trenches. In this case, they just need to screw them into the floor and put barbed wire on them anyway. They say, historians say that the reason why the Maginot Line failed is because it was a static defensive position. Just like the First World War, when they built the trenches, they were basically static, and they built bunkers then as well. So maybe the French hadn't learned anything from it. But then again, I think it was in the 30s, the Germans built the Siegfried Line, or the West Wall was it called. And eventually they went on to build the Atlantic Wall from 1941 onwards. Another defensive position, again another static position. That failed as well. And here's an overview of different casemates, like Ouvrage de la Ferté is there, casemate de Magnot, casemate de Moret, Sainte Marie. There's no scale on this as far as I can see, but each casemate, for instance, that one and that one could fire on each other. I'm assuming that one and that one could fire on each other, and that one could fire on each other, for the reasons I said before, giving firing cover. So what you see in front of me is a machine gun position, a cannon position, and a double machine gun position. Them two are machine guns. Right, just above is an optic that's around every one of these, because if you think about it, if you look at that, where they're going to look out of. So there's an optic above it, so when they're actually firing their machine guns, they're actually looking through this optic and they can see what they're firing. It's on that one, it's on the cannon, and it's also on the single machine gun as well. Right, another machine gun position there, and to that little bit there, that's where the optic would have been, so they could see what they were firing at. Right, this part of the, which is the side flanking section of this casemate, looks like a direct hit. It's took a massive chunk out the side of it, and it's exposed all the rebar. Now, this wall is about 600 to 700 millimetres thick, which is between 2 and 3 foot, something like that. I reckon one more shell out of it, it'd have gone straight into the inside of this this blockhouse. These bells, cloches, couplers, whatever you want to call them, must have been mild steel, because that impact like that, if it was cast iron, it'd have shat into a million pieces. On this cloche, you can see where it's been hit by bullets or light armament, and it's just ricocheted off. Again, on the same cloche, so took a glancing blow for bigger shell. I find that no matter how much research you do on places like this, for instance, it's never the same until you actually go and visit them, and all that research you've done starts to make sense of what you're looking at. But that's in my opinion anyway, and it works for me. So I like to do some research as much as I can, and trying to put in some kind of context where I can tell you guys of what you're looking at and what I'm looking at, so it educates me actually more than anything else. And while I'm looking at it, it makes sense, because I'm looking at things, I'm at the actual sites what I'm actually trying to explain, which starts to make more sense. That looks like a crater off an howitzer. The difference between howitzers and guns is the gun is aimed at you, and an howitzer is aimed up, so it drops down on top of you. Same as a mortar, really. So howitzers and mortars could be fired from a further distance, out of range from these cannons on the Maginot Line. Now this rotating turret was put out of action by a German shell. Apparently it hit it, sent it into the air and landed exactly like this. That's some power, that. These two little marks here, apparently the Germans were using some kind of a explosive device. They stick it on the side and trying to blow a hole inside the actual turret itself. The French came along later on, I don't know, after the war it must have been, and tried to reseal all these here with, I think I was told, aluminium welding. This cloche has taken some pounding. When I look round, it looks like the highest one on this fortification, so that's very visible. Concrete's been battered, and the size of the shells that's bounced off it. Just over that hill there, will be the border of Belgium. Now that's more than likely where the Germans would have come over the top, and possibly more likely where they've set up their the howitzers, mortars to pound this place. This is Blockhouse 2. I think this is where they actually found the bodies of all the occupants back in May of 1940. I'm not very good at French, but it looks as though there's at least 17 people who were killed, soldiers were killed in this ouvrage, buried roughly where I'm stood. This is block 2 of Ouvrage de la Ferté in May of 1940. This is where the Germans moved in. They saw the place on fire actually. They moved in to have a look what there's no resistance at all, there was no communication at all. They moved in to have a look at what was going on, and this is where they found these soldiers. So this area now is a memorial to those soldiers that died here. That part of the door's open, but obviously there's nothing they could do with that. It's just basically been blown away. And inside there's a sealed door, you can't go in. It's only open on certain state days. I wouldn't be surprised it would be open, I think, about the 19th of May at that time, to commemorate these the lives of these soldiers. A 107 men died here at this ouvrage, and I'm going to lay this cross in memory of them and all the soldiers that fought on the Maginot Line in 1940 for freedom and their country, lest we forget. It was interesting walking around this, it's Forté La Ferté, it's pronounced, not Fert, but I'm English, so I never get anything right like that. It's got a nice cafe inside the museum. It's a very, very small museum. It's new, but it's very small, and it sells bits of memorabilia, not much really, key rings and some boots and stuff in English and other different languages. The lady doesn't speak English, so you've got to sort of hopefully know a little bit of French, or just point, which I tend to do more than anything else. But it's free to go in and have a look round, and they've got a couple of films there that are in English as well. So you just sometimes she'll see you and she'll ask you, are you English or French, you know, and you get the gist, and then she'll put the film on that's appropriate to you. It's all spoken French anyway, but it's got subtitles in English, and no doubt it probably have subtitles in German as well. Obviously I've not seen that, but I'm assuming it would do. Right, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again on the next video.